Hello, my name is Mabel, and welcome to the podcast/interview section of You and Voting, where I dive deep into political participation with people who are actively engaged. Today, I met with Isabella Leite to discuss her Girl Scout Gold Award and how it aims to address domestic violence against women in both the United States and Brazil, and how it applies to how young people can participate politically. Okay, so Bella, can you just please introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Isabella Leite. I like to go by Bella. Um, I have been a Girl Scouts for about 7 years. I started as a junior. Um, and I had never gotten a lot into badges, but I really dove into Girl Scouts when I found out about the bronze, silver, and gold award. And so being able to do my gold award is pretty amazing.
Okay, that's awesome. Can you please just tell us what your project is all about?
Yes, so for my gold award, I chose to dive into two areas that I've been very interested in for a lot of my life, which is education, as well as civil rights, um, and mainly focusing on feminism and women. Um, and I also am Brazilian and speak Portuguese, so I wanted my project to also encapsulate that part of my life as well. So for my project, I am developing a curriculum that will be taught in DLI programs, which is dual language immersion programs for Portuguese students in Utah, and as well as in Florida and Massachusetts as well. Um, and the curriculum will be about domestic violence against women in both the United States and in Brazil. So before I started my project, my parents had gone through a divorce, and I became very aware of the physical and sometimes emotional abuse that I saw in my family, especially on my Brazilian side. And I decided to dive into some research about violence against women, primarily in Brazil and Latin American countries, because I have noticed sexism or machismo to be very prominent. So as I did more research, I found out that I think the number is 70% of women will experience domestic violence at some point in their lives in Brazil. Um, and I just remember being so shocked by that. So I decided I wanted to do something with it, and the Gold Award was the perfect avenue to do that. Um, so yeah, that's basically my project.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you were inspired by just like general research that you've seen in like your family, and you just like did some research and you saw like some numbers. Like, was that what inspired you, or was it something else?
So I would say it was primarily my experience with my family, and especially my dad. After I had that experience, I also had some projects in school. Um, One in particular was researching street artists in Brazil. And I had chosen a street artist, and she makes graffiti about violence against women.
Mm.
Um, and I learned a lot about her personal experience with domestic violence in Brazil and her organization that is helping women get out of those situations through art and other services as well. Um, and I just remember like finding all this out and wanting to do something with it, but also have a way to include Portuguese. And I think it was very unique that I was able to do this with the Portuguese program because um, I wanted the curriculum to be based in Brazil, and these students that are speaking Portuguese have been immersed and um, have learned about Brazilian culture for since kindergarten. So I think it was a good audience to have as well.
Okay, awesome. So tell me about your curriculum. Like, what is that based in?
Yes, so I have been working with Sylvia Juhas, who is the curriculum coordinator for DLI in Utah. And she also has connected me to some contacts in Massachusetts and Florida. So I've been working with them, and we developed the curriculum, and the curriculum covers about a month to 2 months. And the main purpose is to compare um, domestic violence in both Brazil and the United States, while also learning how to recognize signs of abuse, knowing different organizations to receive help, and how to help other people who experience abuse. So, a couple activities is that I have included in the curriculum is there's several different videos and articles that the students read and analyze. And then towards the end of the project, or the end of the curriculum, they are assigned to carry out a project to help people in their community or reach out to an organization in Utah, which there are a couple, to see how they can help with domestic violence against women, primarily in Utah. And then at the very end, the final project is developing an infographic almost, and like a brochure about domestic violence, and they'll use all their previous information and prior knowledge to develop the I always want to use Portuguese when I talk about this. To use the brochure, use the information to create the brochure.
That's really cool. I love hearing that. So you're implementing it through like working with organizations, making this curriculum. How is that going to get to people? Or how have you planned to get it to people?
Yeah, so I have some different avenues to get it to people. Working with DLI, I'll be able to get it implemented into middle schools through my connection with Sylvia Juhas. And if we've also, if like for some reason getting them into every school isn't possible, I also plan to reach out to different schools individually. I have grown up with a lot of these teachers, so I can try to get them to teach the curriculum. I also plan to develop a website and hopefully have the curriculum on there, so people, whether they're Brazilian or American Portuguese speakers, they can access the curriculum. And I do plan to have a English version of the curriculum. The Portuguese version is finished and all the graphics have been done, which is really exciting. But I am now working on English versions so I can cater to a variety of people. And I've also, so website, I've been trying to do some media like podcasts, social media, to see if I can reach out to more people and have more people see and use this curriculum.
Okay, that's awesome. So some people might look at this whole curriculum thing like, wow, that's really cool. But a lot of people don't really have a connection with Brazil or Latin America, and they might ask, why does it matter? Why do you think it matters?
So I think this project is a little two-pronged. It has like two different aspects that can help people. I think it's very important for students especially to understand violence, and especially violence against women, which there's several like societal norms, cultural ideologies that we subscribe to that aren't necessarily explained to us, and the damages they cause. And I think with machismo, which is also very prominent as sexism in Utah, and toxic masculinity, I think we subscribe to these things but don't quite recognize how that impacts other people. And domestic violence is a product of that. And so I think being more aware of that and the societal norms that we normalize is very important. Um, and I also think it's very important to know about different cultures as well. I think that learning about Brazilian culture, and although they have different ways of like treating people, I get, let me think about this because I have
Yeah.
a very mixed relationship with Brazil because I have connections there, and but at the same time their culture has been damaging to me. So I think it's very important to learn how to see the damages that a culture can have, but also still have compassion for its people, and its traditions, livelihoods. I think having that compassion while also still condemning certain actions is a very mature thing to be able to do, and teaching that to students, I think, is very valuable.
Yeah. Part of that is how do you think it'll impact people or society as a whole?
Um, my hope is that it can help people at least be a little more able and willing to recognize certain situations that may be dangerous. I think I think some people may sometimes know and have like some suspicions of an abusive situation, but are scared to either speak out about it or aren't quite sure if that's definitely a description of what an abusive relationship is. And so for students to have that knowledge, I think be very valuable to prevent situations like those in their lives and in other lives and other people around them.
I totally agree with you, though, about the more that we talk about something, the more abuse and harassment can be prevented. And I totally see you doing that. So, yeah.
There was one other thing I was going to say. I think that um, also condemning these societal norms will hopefully help break them,
Mhm.
especially in boys, that they can learn to treat women with respect, or if the situations are reversed, just to treat anyone with respect. Um, and I think that's also very valuable so that women are never even put in that place at all.
Okay. So, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So, my project is all about political participation, which is like any ways that people participate in their communities or the government, whether that's voting, protesting, volunteering in the community. And I totally see this as political participation. And so, voting can impact education and responses to these issues. Why do you think people should be involved?
I think education is such a valuable asset that we have in our community. Um, and I think being aware of what we are learning and what we could be learning is very important. Um, I think, I mean, we are teaching like the future generations that will be leaders. And so making sure that they're prepared with every tool that they need is very important. So I think that having this curriculum or any other curriculums that teach students problem solving, how to treat people with compassion, um, and just like civil engagement, I think is very valuable for students that want to be in positions of leadership or really anyone.
What would you say to fellow young people who may not vote or they don't know how to be engaged and participate? What would you say to them?
I think sometimes, as especially a teenager, your voice seems a little quiet in the loudness of everything. But I think it's important to know that your voice does matter, and you can find outlets and avenues to express your opinions and fight for what you believe in, and fight injustices that you see. So I think voting is incredibly important, especially with just this project, even voting on what like certain school board members or different people in the government will determine what you learn in school. And so being active and engaged in that can determine what you do. And I think sometimes I have been guilty of this, just thinking that whoever is in charge, it won't matter like my day-to-day life, but it really does.
Okay. I have one final question for you. What does an ideal world look like to you?
In relation to my project, an ideal world would really just have people treating each other with respect. And I really hope that one day we can live in a world where abuse against anyone and domestic violence and even emotional abuse, which can be so hard to detect. I just would hope that all of that doesn't exist and that we all are able to live our life in peace without judgment from other people or disrespect. That is my one hope, and I just hope that like one day sexism, racism, homophobia, things like that don't exist, and that women have the same rights as men, but also that we can, especially with countries like Brazil, I hope that we can help countries like that and not blame them for their problems and their societal issues, but also help them through different things like domestic violence and the prevalence of it there.
That's about it. Thank you so much for coming on with me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and even share it even. My Instagram handle is @UNVoting, all lowercase. Now, get out there and let your voice be known.